All right, to the sportsbook we go. Suns are the biggest favorites on the board tonight, going up against the Thunder. Meanwhile, that game Garion just mentioned, Grizzlies and T-Wolves are the closest matchup. So are you targeting either of those games for a bet against the spread, or are you looking elsewhere, Garion?
I'll just bet Boston. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really have all that much to do with the 28-2 thing. But they are an 8-point favorite here across their last 15 games. I know like a couple big blowouts, particularly this game against the Nets. Oh, it's 9 now. I'll still bet Boston. It's fine. They're outscoring opponents by 16.6 points per 100 possessions their last 15 games. Like, it's an absurd number. Their defense has been incredible, and it's been incredible against good teams. And right now, the Nets, like, they're missing all of their offensive firepower. The Nets, even just in general, have only covered 6 of their last 26 home games against the spread. I'm just going to take Boston blindly here. Even if it gets up to like 10, I don't care. I'll just bet the Celtics.
All right, Nick, where are you looking?
That's the game I have highlighted as well. And here goes Gary. And I mean, the line's moving live as he's talking, up to -9. You know, the Nets reeled off a couple wins before the break when they were shorthanded. And I feel like that built up like a little bit of unneeded goodwill. And of course, then they finish out their first half schedule by getting smacked around by the Washington Wizards, who are not a very good team. So honestly, I think this number could be a little bit higher. I mean, Garion laid out a pretty compelling case. Boston has been as hot as any team in the league, playing really, really well, really dating back to the last month and a half, 2 months. And Brooklyn's just really shorthanded. They just kind of need to limp through this period until at least one of Kevin Durant or Ben Simmons or Kyrie Irving, becomes a full-time player. But as of right now, I mean, this is going to be a Brooklyn team that's a shell of itself. I also kind of like OKC to cover a big number. They're +10 against Phoenix tonight. They do get SGA back. Josh Giddey played really well before the break, closed with 3 straight triple-doubles. And, of course, as we've talked about at length, no Chris Paul for the Suns. So I think Phoenix wins that game. I think long-term they're fine, but pretty big adjustment playing their first game all season without Chris Paul.
All right, Matt, take us home. What do you think?
So I've been talking about the Denver Nuggets as a dark horse finals contender, but that is entirely dependent on at least Jamal Murray coming back and then potentially Michael Porter Jr. coming back. As it stands, I think Denver is a pretty average team. Like, really what's happening with that analysis is I think Murray is just so much better than Bryn Forbes, Austin Rivers, the guys that are filling in for him. Murray's probably like a borderline all-star when he's at his best, but just the guys he would be replacing, I think, are well below average players. And those are the guys Denver has to give minutes to right now. So I really like the Kings on the other side of this game. I actually don't think there's a massive divide in total skill between these two teams. Like, yes, Jokic is the best player on the floor. It's not debatable. It's not close basically anytime Jokic is playing in a game. But the rest of the Denver Nuggets, I just think, fall off so fast. And Sacramento actually is a pretty deep team right now. I think they're pretty well balanced, and they traded Tyrese Halliburton, which I think I understand why people are critical of that. But for this season, if we're just talking about this year, I do think they got better with Domantas Sabonis. Jeremy Lamb, I think, is a decent player too. Davion Mitchell is returning from a hand injury for this game. The Kings are 4.5-point underdogs. I think this is much closer to a coin flip. So getting those points at home, I think, is really good value here.